Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, I right off the top, I got something here for you. And I guess first I want to ask you, have you ever been to Ottawa?
I have. I have been to Ottawa.
Well, I don't know if you plan on going back, but I would definitely suggest flying in and not making a road trip of it. Uh do you remember when 4 months ago Claude Giroux had his car stolen?
And was it only 4 months ago?
Yeah, it
Oh.
was right around the start of the season. Claude Giroux had his car stolen. Earlier this morning, he reported his loaner car has now been stolen. It,
No way.
yep, he got his rental car while they figured out his other car issue stolen. Uh, and every single person online talking about it that's a Sens fan is like, no, yeah, like this is expected. Apparently, car theft is madness in Ottawa,
Huh.
and that's
Yeah,
brutal,
that's
man.
tough.
Like, I
That's
imagine,
tough to not get 1 but 2 cars stolen.
yeah, I
Unless he's
imagine you
driving a
don't
loaner
keep,
because they never found his other one.
yeah, I I imagine you don't keep too much of your personal stuff in a loaner car. So I like to think, hopefully, you didn't lose much, but eh, either way, that's got to be annoying at the very least. Like, good God, man,
Yeah,
it's
that's
brutal.
a tough a tough couple months there, having 2 cars stolen. Maybe
Yeah,
he's just
like,
being targeted.
dude, honestly, like, I mean, we've seen a couple of really high profile athletes in the past year and a half, all kind of being targeted with a couple types of crime. You know, Malkin just had his house broken into. I'm pretty sure like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, like I think they both had their homes broken into. Like there's, it's pretty easy to access a lot of that information online if you're looking hard
Yeah.
enough. And those guys
Yeah, if you know
clearly
the
got
right places to
stuff.
look, yeah.
They got, not only do they just in general have money, but they got a lot of stuff, sports memorabilia that's worth a lot of money. So, uh, you know,
I mean, hey,
if
Malkin's house was just broken into the other last week.
yeah, like if you just pick 40 different high profile sports guys, you look up all their houses. Oh, this one in particular looks rather quaint, not a lot of security. Like, you know, if these guys are putting in a bit of effort and it's not just random hits, then unfortunately, like a lot of
You
these
lower
guys
your
are gonna
risk
have
of
to
getting caught if you only have to do a couple hits instead of multiples, so
yeah, some of these guys are gonna have to maybe up the security a little bit, you know?
I mean, better for Giroux, right? Better for your car to just get, like, stolen when it's out front. First of all, you'd think he has a garage, right? I would
I
hope so.
assume so.
But
I
it's
assume so. I assume it happened while he's, in a mall, at a movie, maybe even at practice
maybe.
if they're that ballsy.
But,
But
I mean, better to be like Giroux and just have your car stolen, like, when you're not there as opposed to, like, who was it? Mitch Marner?
yeah, Mitch
Who just
Marner
got, like,
got
carjacked and I don't
oh
even know
yeah.
where in Toronto, but
Well, probably while
better
he was
for it to
stopped at
just
all the
get
traffic.
stolen when you're not there than
Yeah.
getting yanked out of your vehicle and watch it drive away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it comparing one thing to the other always sucks, but at the same time, I'd much rather have my car stolen than, somebody break into my house where I sleep,
Yeah.
where my family's at. So,
Yeah, no, so that's a great point, yeah.
but I'd also prefer to not have any issues like that, especially 4 months apart, having two of them. So that's,
Yeah, actually, though. You
dude,
got up the security.
this guy probably thought he was going to be living such a quieter, quainter, safer life. This guy played in Philly for a decade. This guy went from Philadelphia to Ottawa in
You also went
Canada.
to Florida for a couple months.
Yeah, he went from Philly to Florida, and then all of a sudden, all the bad shit's happening while he's in Ottawa. Like,
His hometown, nonetheless.
like that's so goofy. But hopefully, yeah, whatever to the rental car. Honestly, hopefully they find his real car, and hopefully they can return it. It's not damaged. But
I feel
uh,
like after 4 months, yeah, you just gotta give up
uh
on it.
odds are not looking good for it.
Not looking great.
Might need to get a steering wheel lock or something.
Just something. Before we move on and do a little more hockey talk, I have some this I have a trade here that happened. Not in the NHL. This is a trade that's happening over in the that happened over in the NBA. And I want to get your thoughts on it. If this
Okay.
is something that I don't think we'll ever see it in the NHL, but if it did, it would be kind of cool to see. So
Okay.
this was a trade that happened between the Phoenix Suns and
Ooh.
the Utah Jazz. Um, just for a
Did
little
they
bit of
trade
homework sake,
did they trade a NHL franchise? Phoenix
honestly,
to Utah?
uh, a little
Same
bit.
new owner.
So the Phoenix Suns right now, they have a record of 22 and 21. So kind of in the middle
Middle of
right
the
now.
road.
They're still a good team. They're wanting to go all in. Whereas the Utah Jazz right now um, are 10 and 32. They are second last in the league.
Not looking great.
So the Phoenix Suns acquired three first round picks from the Utah Jazz. They get a first round pick in 2025, 2027, and 2029. And the Utah Jazz own all of their first round picks. They're not moving those because they're a bad team, obviously. But
Right.
they have Cleveland and Minnesota's first round picks. So they're telling Phoenix, hey, you get the worst of those two picks between Cleveland and Minnesota. You get the worst of those first round picks in those 3 years. We want the better one.
Okay.
So they're sending, again, 3 first round picks and one in 2025, 2027, 2029.
And they get the worst that they own in any of those years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's going to
Okay.
Phoenix. Phoenix is sending Utah one first round pick. It is a first round pick in 2031. So
Whoa.
6 years from now, but it is a completely unprotected first round pick. So by then,
Oh, so that's the main
if
piece. That's
Phoenix
not a
is
throw in.
yes, so if so that and that's like all Phoenix is giving up. They're getting 3 first round picks to try and flip now this season to try and make their team better and go on a run. Whereas Utah's like, you know what? We don't need that many first round picks. You can have 3. We'll get one 6 years from now, but
So
it's
that's it.
completely
There's no players.
unprotected. No players. It's
That's
literally
the whole.
3 first round picks
Oh.
for 1 first round pick.
Oh my god.
So I'm assuming Utah's kind of banking on at that point by 2031 that Phoenix isn't going to be a good team.
Yeah.
And then that first round pick is just completely unprotected. But I can't say I've ever seen a deal like this where
No.
it's 3 first round picks for 1.
No, absolutely not. And this is the kind of stuff that I've talked at random points on the podcast about it. Like, I love these absolute chaos trades. I love this shit. Like, the idea of being like, I will give you 3 first round picks, but they're going to be first round picks. That's good, but they're not going to be huge value. But I get to roll the dice on I might get an absolute banger from you. Like, do they do a draft lottery or is it based solely on position
No, they do a
in the
draft
game?
lottery. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe there's actually a lot of movement usually in the draft lottery.
Like, could you imagine if Phoenix finishes ninth last in the league and they end up winning that and getting first? And then you get a Steph Curry, a Michael Jordan esque player, or at that franchise piece. Maybe not that level, but like
So
that's really fun idea.
with the what it's looking like for the NBA draft lottery is all 14 teams that missed the playoffs have a chance at the first overall pick. The bottom 3 teams each have 14% chance.
That's
Uh,
not low. Like,
fourth the last 12.5, 10.59, 7.5, and it goes all the way down. So if you're the 14th, like you just missed the playoffs, you have a 0.5% chance of winning the first overall pick, and you have a 2.4% chance to move up into the top 4. So they do a draft lottery for the top 4 picks, as opposed to the NHL now, where they
yeah,
just do for first overall and then second
right.
overall.
So the odds. So for those lower teams, are those the odds to just move up at all, or to get the first overall?
So like right now, the Dallas Mavericks are in that 14 spot. They would be the team that would just miss out on the playoffs.
Right.
They have a 0.5% chance of winning the first overall pick,
Okay.
but they have a 2.4% chance of just moving up into the top 4. Whether that be 2, 3, 4, they have a
Okay.
2.4% chance of jumping all the way up.
Oh, okay. So comparatively, so I'm just on Tankathon. I don't know how updated these are, but it says at this moment that Vancouver and Columbus are 15-16 in the NHL. So uh, they are the two teams closest to the playoffs, but outside of it, they have to move up. Can they even move up? Because there's no draft lottery for just moving up, I suppose.
Yeah, for the NHL, only the top or the bottom 11 teams can win the first overall pick.
Right, here it is. So yeah, so Philadelphia is 11th. They are the first one who can move up all the way to number one. They have a 3% chance.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can only move up 10 spots,
Right.
right? Whereas in the NBA, there's no limit to how much you can move up.
What are the odds for the worst team to get that first
Um,
overall pick
in for what?
in the NBA? Because
In the NBA?
just to
So
stay at number one.
but that's the thing, right? To stay at number 1, it's the bottom 3 teams. So the worst team, the second worst, and the
Oh,
third worst team, they
they
all
all
have a
have the
14% chance of the
okay.
first overall pick. So there's no benefit really
That's why it's so much easier to
be
move
the
up.
bottom team. Like as long as you're in the bottom 3, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter whether you're the very worst or the third worst.
Yeah, 14 is not great odds. That is not a great
Yeah, no.
percentage. Yeah, there's a very good chance. There's about an 86% chance somebody else is going to get that. Meanwhile, in the NHL, the Sharks right now are in last. They have 25.5% chance at first overall. That's getting pretty close to double the odds in the NBA. So
So to
that's
put that into
that's
perspective,
interesting.
so San Jose is the worst team right now. They have a 25% chance of retaining their spot there and selecting first overall.
Yeah,
In the NBA, if you're the 8th worst team, you actually have a better chance of moving up into the top 4. You have a 26.3% chance of moving from 8 to anywhere in the top 4. Well, not first overall, you only have a 6% chance, but
but moving up in
getting the
general.
second or fourth, like you've got a better chance actually. You've got
Yeah.
a 26.3, so
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Sharks, if they don't hit on that 25, not only do they not get the first, but since they're last, we know that means they go down.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
whether that's they move down to the second or the third, because another team could jump up into that number 2 spot, or even the second worst team, which I think is Chicago at the moment.
yeah.
They can just even retain that spot. They don't even have to like jump up to push San Jose down necessarily. They could just retain their spot, and Seattle could jump up to 1, and that could bump San Jose down uh,
To 3.
to 3. So
Wow.
it's kind of
That's
interesting, and like
that's a
for
very interesting
Utah, I
trade.
mean, like the Utah Jazz that's getting this just one unprotected pick. They're obviously a not a good team right now, going through a rebuild and whatnot. They still have lots of first round picks. So like if they're a good team by 2029, 2030, you have this unprotected first round pick that you could hold on to and use if you want. But you could also use that as like a massive trade chip down the road. If you're already a contending team and looking to win now, like you could use that. And that has, again, like nowadays, unprotected firsts have just
Insane value.
insane value. Like we see it happen
I
in
love
every
that.
league that it can happen. So
Like
yeah,
that's
kind of interesting. I don't think we'd ever see something like this in the NHL. Mainly because we don't really see teams have a plethora of first round picks stocked up for what is that, 4 years, having like multiple picks every year.
yeah,
But
I'm surprised they're getting that unprotected pick so far in the future. You said it was 2031? Like that's in 6
6
years.
years, yeah. Like
So,
the kid that they would be drafting that year is in what, he'd be like 12 right now.
12.
So
Yeah, like
like
he's literally a kid.
literally in junior high right now.
Potentially has not even actually hit puberty yet. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's if he plays in the NBA, probably has, but like
Probably, but no, yeah, like that.
he's
It's
probably
just
already 6'5".
yeah, that's it's just a weird trade. it's just really cool that you'd never see something like that happen in the NHL.
But I would love to. Like, okay, so we talked last episode, or we've talked definitely in the past few at different points about what Pittsburgh can do to try and make the playoffs because they clearly want to win with Crosby, right?
Hmm.
I mean, they don't have a ton of stuff they can move out to get value now, but it would increase that value. Like a Penguins first. Yeah, that'll bring something back. What if you unprotect it? What-
Yeah,
Now you've got some teams' attention, right? Because the Penguins also look like a team that could fall off. If they're that
yeah.
serious about contending now and doing this for Sid, dude, a Penguins 2027 pick,
Well, I
unprotected,
mean,
that gets
think
you the
about it,
farm.
right? Like, what were kind of the two trades at the deadline last year that people were kind of very underwhelmed with the return for the selling team? It was the Calgary Flames trading Noah Hannafin to Vegas and San Jose trading Hurdle to Vegas because they looked at their returns and like, all right, a first, a prospect, and for Calgary, another player, right? But then you kind of look at it, it's like, Vegas is like, especially this year, they're a good team, and next year they're probably going to be a good team. But like those first rounders were completely unprotected, right? If like losing March or so, losing Stevenson, like if that and if something else happened to Vegas, if they were like not a good team this year, obviously that first round pick is now with Nashville. San Jose traded it, but it's an unprotected first. If Vegas isn't good next year,
Yeah,
Calgary's sitting there like, we have your first round pick, regardless of if you make the playoffs, you miss. If it's a top 10 pick, top five, even first overall, if something crazy happens, like
yeah,
that's just Calgary's pick. So the return when you look at it's like kind of underwhelming, but then you're like, it's a guaranteed first round pick with no strings attached at all to it, which to GMs that's pretty
it adds
important.
it adds a lot of value, Like every once in a while, you'll have that team that slips, and like, dude, I would not have blamed the Rangers at all if they traded their first round pick completely unprotected last year. Like,
Yeah,
they won the President's
and
Trophy. Like, they
they
were
should
one of
have.
the favorites for the cup. But
Yeah,
man, if somebody did that, unless that guy that they got back for it really turned the franchise around, like
yeah,
they would they would be sitting pretty right about now. Less so now than a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, the Rangers really seem to have figured things out in the last little bit, and honestly, I think they're going to make the playoffs. But
kind of trending that way. Yeah, they're on a roll now. The team's starting to get it going.
yeah, it just felt like too stacked of a roster to not turn it around at some point after 82 games. But
Yeah,
uh, having them near the bottom of the league, it was fun while it lasted.
yeah, yeah. We had our laughs, and now we got to go back to watching them be a good team, and you know we'll
And
talk a little bit about JT Miller in a bit, but again, the way the Rangers are looking, if they can find a way to add JT Miller into the mix now,
it's a
that's
pretty
even
good
better
team.
for them. Like that's even better.
And we've seen a very consistent trend in the last, honestly, close to a decade at this point, or at least half a decade, of teams that can't quite win in the playoffs. They win a President's Trophy. They don't win that year, but the next year, then they win the cup. We saw it with Washington. We saw it with Tampa. We saw it with. Uh, I'm not sure if the Avalanche ever won a President's Trophy, but I think we saw it with the Panthers. We might have seen it with Vegas even. Like a lot of these teams, until they get that huge success in the regular season, and then uh, it kind of takes another season to realize, that's good. Now this time, let's just get into the playoffs and prepare for a cup run.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
who knows?
But
Maybe
we
maybe the
can,
Rangers turn it around.
yeah, and we'll definitely be coming back to the Rangers in a little bit, but let's dive into some of our latest news around the league currently. Pick a starting point for us and kick it off here.
One thing that I know Minnesota Wild fans will be very happy to hear is that both Kirill Kaprizov and Jared Spurgeon have both been activated off IR. So they are both, I assume, going to be playing in whatever the next Minnesota Wild game is. And that's, I mean, Kaprizov obviously, like he's been in heart conversations, so like obviously that's huge for them. But Spurgeon also a great defenseman and their captain. Getting him back, like that's
Yeah,
the
after a
team.
pretty scary looking injury as well. Like we kind of keep coming back to it, but it's good to
Yeah,
see that he's back and healthy and just ready to get back after. Minnesota's still one of the better teams in the West, and they've been doing it without, again, their best player, a guy who was in heart conversations, and their captain. So that's a that's got to be a nice injection back into their lineup to get not one of them, but getting both of them back.
yeah, yeah. That's going to be huge for them, and they're probably the coldest right now that they've been this season. They haven't been doing bad necessarily, but they're obviously just were so good to start the year that uh, they're definitely hoping that they can get back to that with two major players coming back for them.
And that's why at the beginning of every season when a team starts off cold, people are like, don't worry, they'll figure it out. This is why it's so important to get off to a hot start in the season, right? Minnesota was so good that again, losing their captain, maybe not their best defenseman, but the leader of their team and their best player overall, like the guy that drives the offense, they put themselves in such a good spot that losing both them for a certain period of time didn't kill their season, right?
Yeah,
Like what are they? They're still
they're still 28, 15, and 4 for
yeah, like
60
they're
points.
still second in their division. Like catching Winnipeg, yeah, probably out of the question, but you know what? That's fine. You don't need to catch Winnipeg. Um, and they're still in a divisional spot. They're not knocked down into a wild card spot. They're not just outside of the wild card spot. That's why getting off to such a good start is crucial for these contending teams because at any moment someone can get injured. But if you put yourself in a good enough spot that you can kind of just ride it out until they get back, that's all you need. And Minnesota's proven it here. So I expect them to kind of get things back and rolling and um, maybe start to build that gap on some other teams again.
Yeah, I don't know about the teams right behind them because they're also looking pretty good, the Stars and the Avs. But even if they do go behind both of them and go into wild card one, they've still got at the moment they've got 10 points on wild card two. I guess nine. The Flames have 51 over the Blues 50, but they're still sitting in a pretty damn good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Teams like the Golden Knights, like they got off to such a hot start. They've lost four in a row now. They're still at the top of their division. They got the Oilers right behind them, but yeah, like getting, it doesn't feel like the stakes are as high, obviously, in October, November, but wins are 2 points in October. Wins are 2 points in March. Like they matter the same amount. So you got to get off
Yeah.
to a good start. Uh, one
Yeah.
team
I'm
that's
completely agreed there.
one team that's been winning a good bit as of late that we were saying if they are really, really hot, they might be able to do something. The Nashville Predators, 4 wins in a row. I'm not
No, yeah,
confident. I'm
pulled
not
off
confident
their
for them yet, but
they pulled off their first in franchise history, their very first 4-goal comeback win. Um, being down 5-1 against San Jose and coming back to win that game 7-5. So
yeah, that was
they're
huge.
a team that, has really kind of been good defensively, but offense has been non-existent. When the defense had a really rough night against a not very good offensive team, the offense found a way to get it going. And um, they actually play again tonight. Uh,
The Sharks and Preds.
Nashville is now playing in San Jose, and it
Mm.
sounds like not confirmed, but I believe it's going to be Askarov in the net, so he'll get a chance finally here to play against his former team.
Oh, that'll be a good game then, especially after how last one went.
Hey, you know what? That's why you bring in Alex Georgiev, the best tank commander in the league.
Yep.
That's what you brought him in to do.
Yeah. Dude, it'd be so funny to be a fly on the wall in the Sharks locker room. Like they're like the coach is like telling telling Askarov, like, listen, you've been playing great. We know you're good, but like, we'd like one more good draft pick, and we have Gorgiev we can shove in the crease now. Like, are you okay splitting games with him, maybe 40-60?
Well,
Because
and I'm
like,
still,
a bad
there's still a
goalie is the
lot.
best way to lose games.
Yeah, like there's a lot that I think is eventually, I think pieces are going to start um being moved out of San Jose at some point. We'll go off on the next bit of news here with them. Um, they claimed Walker Dewar off waivers from the Calgary Flames. Okay,
Right.
so now you've got uh, Nico Sturm, who is going to get traded at some point here. It doesn't sound like there's going to be an extension. So you have Nico Sturm, Barclay Goodrow, Ty Dellandrea, Carl Grundstrom, Walker Dewar. You've got five of like the same player.
Yeah.
Why? You don't need five fourth line power forward type guys. Like,
I would imagine it's because they're planning on moving some other guys out, and
well,
he'll
and
come into
that's
the
what I
lineup
think. Like,
once that happens.
I do believe that like Nico Sturm is going to be a guy who's going to get traded, and I think he's got the most value out of them. He's won a Stanley Cup. He can be a great fourth line center. He plays a good two-way game, can kill penalties, like block shots. Like that's an intriguing piece for teams that are kind of looking for that fourth line shut down guy, right? That can win faceoffs. So yeah, and then they still have Vitek Vanacek who's out. He took that puck when he was sitting on the bench. He'll be back at some point, and then you're like, yeah. So now what do you do? Like your kind of only option is to either send Askarov back to the AHL, or you just run with him and Georgiev. You try to find a way to trade Vanacek because let's be real, the experiment of trying to bring Georgiev's value back and trade him, like that's not happening.
No.
You've got him. He's going to help you lose games. That's really what you want at the end of the day. Like you don't need the first overall pick, but you want to kind of at least solidify that like you're going to have a top 4 pick. You're going to get one of those top 4 guys, and then by next season, yeah, it should be Askarov should just be the guy because
Yeah. Uh,
regardless of how bad San Jose plays, if he's in the net, they have a very good chance of winning still.
yeah. I
Same
think
with
I think they
Calgary
should
and
try
Preston
and
Wolf.
I think they should try and move Vanacek if they can, just to get any value for him while you can,
Yeah,
because I doubt that he's extending with them. And then play out the rest of the season. Let Gorgiev help lose a couple games. Askarov hopefully wins the rest, and then you've traded Vanacek. Gorgiev's gone. He's into UFA after this year, and then you can get whoever else off of free agency to be either the backup or share a tandem with Askarov. And Askarov's clearly the guy going forward, so
yeah.
you kind of fill it out in free agency. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see which of these guys get moved and what the return is, because they actually do have a couple of guys that are going to be worth a decent bit here.
The one thing I will say, because there's been I'll ask you because it's kind of been a debate that's kind of blown up on Twitter about like should they, shouldn't they? With San Jose, like obviously there's lots of guys that can get moved, both forwards and defensively. The biggest potential trade chip that they would have would be Mikael Granlund.
Yes.
And do you believe that San Jose should trade Granlund, or do you try and work out a 3 or 4 year extension to keep him? Granlund as well, who guys like Celebrini, Eklund, like they've been good, but since Granlund came over at the beginning of the previous season, has been San Jose's best player by far across his tenure with the team
Yeah.
in
A
in
guy
that last year and a half.
a guy who was a cap dump, straight up a cap
Yeah,
dump in the Carlson trade. He was
yeah,
bad. He wasn't just underperforming, he was bad on the Penguins. And man, did he turn it around as soon as he came over. Yeah, he had 5 points in 21 games in Pittsburgh. I didn't realize they traded him quite that quickly, honestly.
yeah.
Um,
They really didn't do like Dubas really didn't give him much of a chance at all.
no, and San Jose, 60 points in 69 last year, 40 and 48 this year, like just barely under a point per game both times in, obviously not a very high scoring and great performing team at the
Like
moment. So
100 points in a season and a half on what's been consistently the worst team across the league. Like they were
yeah,
the worst last year, they're the worst this year.
yeah.
He's got
So
100 points, so
it's uh it's hard to tell because he's so right now he's 32. He has a February birthday, so he'll be 33 pretty quick. So he is getting pretty old. Obviously, the team wants to get younger, but they got the core pieces to do that. I guess what's the offer for him? Because, obviously San Jose has no retention slots, but he's still, just under a point per game at 5 mil a year. Like you can move that no retention easy. So if you're
yeah.
getting you have to ask around and you have to see what people are offering. If the best offer you get is a second, fuck it. We're gonna extend this guy for 2 more seasons or something. But if somebody's offering a decent prospect or a first into something, then maybe you do it because
See, for me, I think it would be you gotta have it like a first round pick, okay, sure. Like to me, I don't value like a New York Rangers first round pick, right? Or well, actually, maybe not the Rangers because they're kind of like Edmonton Oilers or something, or a
yeah,
Florida Panthers, like a team that you like where the first round pick is probably going to be like 25 to 32.
yeah. What's a
There's
26
not,
overall going to get you? Like that
yeah, like
player's
well,
probably not playing.
you could get a Quinton Musty, but in this draft, probably not. So that's why I'm like, you probably want to be like, hey, we want to get a good prospect, like one that we're very high on and confident in, or not even a prospect, but like a younger player that you know just maybe needs a change of scenery, or a younger player that's in that kind of 22 to 24 area that like can be kind of part of this core. Um, but I personally think they should just re-sign him. I think you look at the difference between San Jose and Chicago is even when San Jose's losing, the vibes are good because you've got that good mix of veteran younger players and you've got the good veterans to play with your young guys. Whereas you look at Chicago and the vibes just seem to be awful
Yeah,
because you've kind of got Bedard and they don't. They Chicago really hasn't done the best job of putting a solid, strong. I mean, they've tried. I'll give them that. They have tried, but they don't have the best supporting cast around Bedard. So
it's so weird because both teams are clearly in a rebuild. Both teams are clearly, going through that, and maybe the worst part's over for San Jose, but like, and probably Chicago as well. I mean, before they got Bedard, but like
yeah,
it really feels like San Jose for now a year and a bit has really been like, we know we're the worst. We are tanking. This is the cycle, and we're gonna come out of it. So we're just gonna have to try and endure it. It really feels like that's the outlook. In Chicago, it really feels like fuck, we should be winning by now, but we just keep sucking, even though they're clearly in a rebuild anyway. Like it
yeah.
I don't know, it just feels so much more frustrating for the Blackhawks than the Sharks, and I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it's just because Bedard's name is attached to it, but like, you know,
Hmm.
they they drafted Jonathan Taves and, they were still bad and then they drafted Kane afterwards or whichever order it happened in. Like, you
Yeah.
not a lot of teams draft high and then immediately get back into the playoffs or whatever, right? So,
Exactly, right, like,
um
that's just the way it goes, that's the nature of being a rebuilding team.
yeah. This is not I don't know too much about this guy, so I don't know if this specifically would be good. But I imagine if they do want to move Granlund, and I don't think they should be pressured to. If the deal's not out there, keep the good player. He's good teaching Celebrini how to pass and stuff, right?
And
But
you're a rebuilding team, so you can give him a 3-year deal and maybe overpay a bit.
yeah,
Like,
they don't have to
if
worry
he
about
goes
money.
to free agency or somewhere, teams might be like, "We're trying to win a cup, and we'll give you a 3-year deal at 4 mil." San Jose could be like, "We'll give you 3 years, we'll give you 6 mil, we'll give you 6.5 because we've got lots of money to work with.
Yeah,
We've got
they
lots of
have
cap space. We need to get to the cap floor more than anything."
Yeah, they have so much cap space that they could also make it easier to not handcuff themselves in the future. They could give them 9 mil for 2 seasons. And
Yeah.
in 2 seasons, like you're not even close to worrying about it. But if you think you might be buying in the third season, well, now he's freed up on that season.
Yeah.
So, and of
Exactly.
course, I'm sure he would take a 9 by 2. Um,
Oh, yeah.
but so if you don't want to get a later draft pick, because that's who's going to be wanting him, right? That's who's going to want Granlund. They're
Yeah.
the Panthers, the Oilers, the Hurricanes, those top teams that are
Yeah.
already, we know they're in the playoffs. Um, you want a established prospect, not just another draft pick. You want a guy. Edmonton has Matthew Savoy. I have not kept up since he got drafted too much on his development, but a guy of that caliber who a couple years ago went fairly high overall. He's looked like he's gonna be good. I don't know if he's still looking to be that necessarily, but like a
27 points in 36 AHL games so far. So,
So, not world-beating numbers, but decent offensive production for a 21-year-old in the AHL.
yeah.
Like almost kind of like how Tampa went out and they got Connor Geeky, not he's like a prospect, but he's not a complete unknown. Like you do at the by the time they got their hands on him, they knew he would be something at least. Maybe
Yeah.
not, a top player or something, but like he's at the very least going to play some NHL games for you. So,
Yeah.
maybe something of that caliber, a
Yeah. No,
last
I
sometime in the
completely
last
agree
3
with you there.
years, a
Yeah.
top 15-ish pick.
Yeah.
And, maybe you could probably still get a little bit more. I mean, sure, that guy might turn out to be good, but they're getting a they're getting a 60, 70 point guy. So,
And that's a
pro-
guy who's on a bottom feeding team, right? Like the numbers could even elevate more on a more
fuck,
talented team as
well,
well.
fuck. Can you imagine Granlund playing with Drysaitel on the second line? That'd be pretty damn
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Right.
This guy had 48 assists last year on the bottom team in only 69 games as well. Yeah, could you imagine him passing to the literal league goal scorer leader? Like
Yeah.
that'd be pretty nice.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And that's one of the things I'm actually kind of excited about. We'll talk a little bit about Four Nations here in a sec because we got a player who could miss the Four Nations. Um, but it's kind of exciting. You see, because there's going to be some players going into this that might be traded in a couple weeks. And I'll just use Granlund for example. Going to play on Team Finland. If I don't know if he would be, but if for some reason on Finland they decide to put Granlund on the wing with like Barkov,
Yeah.
and they just make magic happen, and they're insane. There's a good chance after the tournament that Florida might be inclined to be like, let's try and go get Granlund. Let's just put him with Barkov and let those two guys tear it up together in Florida here now. So that's kind of one of the cool things I like about the Four Nations being like before the deadline is, you know, teams like obviously everybody's like it's gonna be the only hockey on, so all the players, GMs, coach, like they're gonna be watching it, and definitely could open the door to more trade possibilities by seeing certain guys maybe play together, and if they play well together, could make a case for the team trying to go out and get that guy.
Yeah, honestly, like it makes a lot of sense. And you're not going to see that too often with, like a Team Canada or a Team USA because so many of those guys are just so high profile, but you know, with Sweden and Finland, that's a really good one. I think honestly, a pairing like a Barkov or even a Luosterainen and
Yeah,
Granlund, I could definitely see playing together.
shit, they have
Like
Lundell too. Like Florida's got a lot on on Finland.
honestly, having those three guys play together, if Granlund plays well with them, I mean, fuck, there you go.
Yeah,
There's your guy right there.
yeah. Speaking a little bit more about Four Nations, Vegas Golden Knights forward William Karlsson is week to week with a lower body injury, and it's not confirmed, but there is rumblings that this may force him to miss the Four Nations face-off, which would open the door for another player to join Team Sweden. And again, another guy who maybe might get traded. Ricard Raquel, I think, is probably the slam dunk to play for Team Sweden if William Karlsson misses.
I would imagine so.
I think so, based on the season he's having. Like they,
He's having a great year, and
yeah,
he's also a guy that he he is probably the best trade chip that the Penguins have out of the guys they are willing to move.
Yeah.
This year he's got 23 goals for 40 points in 48 games. Like dude is dude is burying the puck. Like he's on pace for like what is that? Like 37 goals on a full season? Something like that? Like
Yeah.
37 goals, 80-ish, 75 points. Like that's pretty nasty. So, uh yeah, it would be real nice for the Penguins if he could also have a real nice showing during the Four Nations, assuming he
And
gets on
maybe
the team.
open the eyes to a couple other teams if he goes in and again, if he just starts playing well with some other players, might be a guy that teams would look at targeting even more.
Yeah. I really do like those are things I haven't even thought of in so long because it's been so long since we've got this best on best type of tournament. Like I forgot, you can have those guys playing with other dudes and damn, they have some good chemistry. Like fuck if they're looking to sell, like we're ready to buy. Like that's such a fun extra thing that can come from tournaments like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Got a couple more things on here. Where do you wanna go over to next?
Let's stay in California for a second and the Ducks, they're getting Trevor Zegras back. He's returning he did return. I think he already played his returning game after missing 22 games due to injury. Uh I wasn't able to catch it. I don't know which game this was, but
I believe it was their loss to Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was. Okay, it was, yeah.
okay. I had no idea how many games he had played this year, but I was loosely keeping up on his stats, and obviously, they didn't look fantastic. But you know, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. But that's only in 25 games because of that injury. So 10 points in 25 games. That's just under half a point per game. You'd like more out of a guy like him, but it's a little. Is it better? Well, it's
Got
fairly
on
similar
pace, I
point.
think, with last year's numbers for him.
Yeah, fairly similar to last year. Last year he only played 31 games as well, because of so many injuries. So, honestly, like people have been giving it to Zegras pretty good. I come to this realization every single time I look at him because people talk like he's been having a down year for the last like 4 years, but this is this is his fourth year being in the league full time, and so
Mhm.
4 years ago, 61 points. 3 years ago, 65 points. And then the last two, 15, and so far this year, 10. But in those last 2 years, only 31 games and only 25 games. So, like, he,
Yeah.
re- he really hasn't had a chance to play and probably get fully healthy either. So,
Yeah.
the more I look at it, the more, especially since it really seems like it just keeps coming up, uh, other teams should be looking to trade for this kid.
And I'm starting to think so, like, I think not only for other teams, but I think the Ducks probably should, like I mean, you've kind of put yourself in this position and, like, not to the fault of the Ducks, like, you've drafted good players in, Leo Carlson, Mason McTavish, but, again, like, do you just tell Zegras, "Hey, you're a winger now as long as you're here," like or do you just try and move him and you try and get more like, maybe you try and get another winger to bring into the mix. Maybe you go out and try and get a young defenseman, right? Like, kinda similar to, like, a Cutter Gauthier, Jamie Drysdale swap. Do you try and do a Zegras for
Jamie Drysdale.
Simone Nemec or something? I think maybe the Ducks have to add a little bit, but
Yeah,
maybe something along those lines. And then you get a
that's a fun
young
idea.
defenseman you can now implement in, and you don't have to worry about, okay, what are we doing with Zegras? Like, do you just have him be a third line center? Do you just make him a permanent winger, or you kind of take that stress of the situation away from you as well, and just
Yeah,
build your
that's
team up better in other parts.
honestly, there's a lot of teams that I think could use a Zegras type player especially if they think they can make sure that he stays healthy for the long term and continue to help develop him because I really think that he is going to be great. All he needs is a season where he can stay healthy and an off season where he can rehab anything else that he needs to and then just work on his craft. Like it it really is understated in my opinion how much being healthy going into the off season matters. Um this was, I believe, 3 or 4 seasons ago at this point, but I remember, uh, there is the one off season where Stamkos said, like, "Holy shit, I forgot what it's like to practice in summer." Like, he's just been rehabbing every off season since his leg injury in 2014, and he's like, "This is the first off season I've been able to just actually practice getting better, not staving off injuries in half a decade." And the next season, he put up 106 points.
Yeah.
His only 100-point campaign in his career, like, and, you could attribute that to a lot, but, you know, I got to imagine he's a guy who knows what he's talking about. He says, "It's better to practice than just get better." So, if you can give him that one solid year and he's so young, like, just still developing, like, he is 23. We at least know the type of player he is. I don't think everyone's seen, the overall skill level he has quite yet, though,
Yeah.
'cause it also feels like the Ducks, they kinda left him behind. It really does have the vibe of they don't want him as much as they did now that they got guys like Carlson and Cutter Gauthier, but, like, seeing all the fun stuff Zegras does, obviously, with the lacrosse moves and the All-Star game, like, dude clearly just loves hockey. Like, I'm sure he would thrive a lot on just a team that just genuinely wants him, right? And just, like,
Yeah.
wants him to succeed in his own right, and yeah, we could
Hey, no,
I yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of teams that would, be willing to trade for him, but it'll be interesting to see if he does get moved near the deadline or if they hold on to him to see what happens. Because at some point, he's
Yeah.
gonna need a new contract. I'm not sure how soon. What do we got here? Zegras.
It's
He can get extended. He has 2 more years, so he can get extended this offseason. He
okay.
is an RFA for that,
Okay.
so
So yeah,
that'll be
so there's
interesting to see what
lots of
happens.
excitement and potential for teams if they want to make a move for him that come this summer. Like you could lock him into, an extension that makes him happy and that you're comfortable with, and then you run with it. So
Yeah. Hell, if they're
um
if they're still looking to get some veteran presence over there,
yeah.
and you know what? Ricard Raquel for Trevor Zegras. I love that for the Penguins.
Yeah, but it does make sense for the Ducks to bring Raquel back.
Oh god, he totally played for the Ducks, didn't he? I
Yeah.
I completely forgot. He was there for quite a bit.
Like obviously Pittsburgh I think would still have to give up like a bit more because like
Yeah.
man, but
Slightly used Chris
Zegras would be
Letang.
a fun player out in Pittsburgh though.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that could use a guy like him that because he can play decent hockey, middle six hockey right now, but he could be better in the future and he's so young already playing at the NHL level that he low key like can really help make your team younger. Like
Yeah.
having that aging core that helps you mostly win the cup while also having that like next era that you kind of sign in long term that, eventually when those other guys start moving out, you already have a couple of guys still there. I think is really
Yeah.
important. And
Yeah.
that's one of the main ways you can like, teams can make a rebuild not have to happen. Like some of these teams just deny the idea of a rebuild through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Moving on, got a couple quick things we can rattle off. Don't have to say too much on this, but we now know for sure that Jonathan Taves will not be returning this season, despite rumors and speculation that he could be. It is pretty much all but confirmed that will not be returning this season. So, um, looking like they're targeting a comeback for next season.
Yeah.
So we do know
And
that now.
so he'll be looking to get back into it for the 25-26 season. He hasn't played since the 22-23 season, so that's now is that is that 2 or 3 full seasons he's missed? 23-24 and 24-20. So 2 seasons he'll have been out.
That's
I
tough to come back from after missing two full seasons.
He'll be 37 come July 1st, 37, like, Ovechkin's 39. Like,
Yeah.
it's not impossible, but, uh,
Ovechkin
missing
didn't miss 2 years, so
no, he just missed, what was it, 12 games for the first time in
yeah,
his career. So,
yeah.
I really don't know. I assume some team will probably pick him up, but then again, I would have said that about Phil Kessel, and I did,
Yeah,
so, uh,
professional
we'll see
poker
it.
player now.
Yeah, actually. Oh, man. Dude just lives his life. Dude, he's out
Um,
there doing his best.
hey, and you know what? Good
Love
for
to
him.
see it.
He's earned the right to at this point, and would like to see him come back and maybe see him go out on his own terms. But hey, you know what? If you're ending your career with 3 Stanley Cups, your final game being lifting the cup, like hey, what that's not a bad way to go out.
Yeah. Maybe spend your money that you win at the casino a little better than, a guy like Evander Kane.
Oh yeah, yeah, you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. Last bit of news here before we get into a little bit of fun stuff here. New Jersey Devils goaltender Jacob Markstrom is expected to miss some time with an injury after a collision. I think it was with Brazeau, if I'm not mistaken, of the Boston Bruins last night. Don't know the nature of the injury. Don't exactly know the timeline, but they have confirmed that he is going to miss some time. That is not good for New Jersey. Markstrom has been one of the better goalies in the league so far this year.
In the last
Um,
month, he's been probably a top 3 goalie. He's been
yeah,
incredible for them.
and
Made some
that's saying
absolutely
something
highlight reel
considering like
saves.
really you're kind of fighting with everybody for 2 spots because Hellebuck's always has just been the best consistently all year. So um, yeah, he's been terrific for them. That is, I don't know exactly how well Jake Allen's been doing for them. Um, I'm sure they have confidence in him holding down the fort until Markstrom comes back. But if you're New Jersey, you really hope that it's not anything serious and that you can get Markstrom back as soon as possible. Because yeah, you need a guy like him.
Yeah, and they do got Jake Allen as the backup still, which is, definitely one of the better backups in the league, but, uh their goal is to win the cup, and you really need a real strong starting goaltender usually, and Markstrom's
Yeah,
been that guy for him. Like, that's the one thing they've needed over the past few seasons, and Markstrom's absolutely delivered. So if they can get him back and, make sure he's played some games and he's like proper ready for the playoffs, uh, that's what the Devils need. Like, it
yeah,
hopefully it's nothing serious.
yeah. Really, yeah.
I'll have to
Again,
keep an eye on that.
we'll probably come back to it on Tuesday next week. We'll probably have a little bit more of an idea of what the injury is, but we are not necessarily done talking about New Jersey here. So I told you at before we recorded that I got something planned here, and I didn't tell you because I want to get your immediate thoughts and reactions and whatnot.
Okay.
So we know that eventually JT Miller is going to get traded out of Vancouver,
What?
and
Yeah. Yeah, he's
we've
gonna
got
move.
4 rumored teams that are kind of in the mix right now. That being the Dallas Stars, New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils, and Carolina Hurricanes. So what I've done is I have gone over to a good friend, Chat GPT, and
But of
I
course.
asked them to cook up mock trades for all 4 of these teams for JT Miller. And we're going to go through each one by one. And I just want to get your thoughts, your reactions to it, and if you think it's a fair deal, and if you think the Canucks would accept it.
Okay, so I'm
They're
coming at this from
um,
the Canucks side.
yeah, because they're the one kind of moving out the biggest players. So I'm going to present offers to you,
Right.
and yeah, you're going to tell me if you think it's a fair deal, if you'd accept it, and yeah, basically it.
All right. I'm gonna cosplay as who is it? Patrick Alvine.
Yeah,
I get to be GM for a day. All right. Which
Take
one are
your
we
pick.
starting with?
What you I'll let you take your pick. You're answering the phone. So who's all four teams are calling. Who are you answering first?
You know what? It's the one that I think I'm gonna take the least because they're within the conference. I'm gonna go the Dallas Stars first.
The Dallas Stars. So I would like to acquire JT Miller from you. No salary retention or anything.
Go to hell. All right, what's your
I'm
offer?
willing to give you a just gonna double check because I want to make sure that they actually do have the pick. Pretty sure they do. Okay, yeah, they do. So I'm gonna offer you, and this is what ChatGPT cooked up, a 2025 first round pick, top 10 protected though, just in case. Probably not gonna end up being top 10, but hey, top 10 protected.
I was so excited for the Stars to fall off heavy.
Maverick Bork, young centerman drafted in the first round in 2020, and Thomas Harley.
Ooh, Thomas Harley. Okay.
So 2025 first round pick Maverick Bork and Thomas Harley for JT Miller.
I was not expecting Harley to be involved.
I was shocked when it cooked that up.
That's
Not gonna lie.
that's a very interesting addition. I don't think that's enough to get JT Miller, but a f- how's Maverick Bork been?
Maverick Bork this season.
Like he's kind a little bit of a throw in, right? Like he's not
No, no. I
is
mean,
he
he's been a beast in the AHL. He's 23 years old. Drafted
in the
30 overall in 2020. He is right-handed, which is pretty exciting. In his rookie year, he has 12 points in 42 games.
okay, so probably a middle to bottom six forward.
Probably gonna end up being a second or third line guy that at his peak, I think you could get 60 points out of him.
You think he gets
Once
60
once he
points?
once he get I think once he gets into his prime, I think you yeah.
I mean,
I don't think the ceiling's much higher than that, but I think that's in the ballpark of where you could get him to.
so I don't care too much about the protection because the stars are great.
Yeah, right. I
Uh,
don't yeah, I threw that in, but I was like,
so
who cares?
that's a 24 to 32 overall pick. That's
Yeah.
fine. Thomas Harley's definitely the centerpiece of it, which is fun, but he's not really well. I guess they don't like they have Quinn Hughes. They don't need an insane offensive defenseman. Like he'd be really good on their second pair. It's not a bad trade. It's
I'd
not a bad
probably
trade
be
offer.
hammering except if Thomas Harley was right-handed. I think that's
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that would be the needle mover for me is if you're Vancouver, you really want to do prioritize getting a right-handed defenseman if possible, but doesn't always
I
work like that with the
yeah.
suitors that are kind of coming to the table right now. So
I'd probably say no if I'm Vancouver, but like the at the very least, the skeleton of a deal is definitely there.
it's there. Okay. All right. So we are saying no to the Dallas Stars. So Dallas, go fuck yourself and come back to the table with a more real
Yeah,
offer.
yeah. Call me
Who
back
are you
when you
picking
want to
up?
talk seriously.
Who are you picking up the phone for next? New Jersey, Carolina, or the New York Rangers?
Rod the Bod scares me, so I'm gonna answer the Hurricanes call second.
The Carolina Hurricanes. I want JT Miller. No salary retention. Just give me him in his full deal.
I
I will
thought you
give
wanted
you
Pedersen. Should have get off the pot.
not anymore. Not anymore. We're switching it up. We changed our minds after you told us to go fuck ourselves last year. I'm willing to give you a 2025 first round pick, top 10 protected, just in case. Antti Honka, right-handed defenseman. He was a third round pick in 2019. Probably nothing super great. And 24-year-old Marty Natchez.
It is Natchez. All
They're going
right.
back to the basis kind of the deal that they had last year for Pedersen at the deadline.
Right.
Before he signed that wild extension.
I was gonna say because before he was a free agent or a pending free agent. whether that was RFA or UFA, but he signed. Oh, is it just a 2-year extension?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they locked him in long term, or was that Seth Jarvis? Did they like bring him in for 8?
Yes, yeah, Seth Jarvis. Yeah, he got the big one. I'm also not entirely sure if Carolina actually holds the rights to Honka or if he's because he is currently playing over in Switzerland. So I don't know if they like have his right to kind of trade or if he's like
Uh,
away from the franchise. But like really, he's not, like really the deal is basically JT Miller for a first and Natchez.
right.
That's really what the basis of the deal is.
That is interesting.
And it
So,
makes sense for Carolina because again, like Natchez is he got off to a hot start on the season, but I think he's only got like 10 points in his last 20 games. He is only on that tier deal, so like you're gonna have to pay him pretty well, in 2 years. And can you afford that?
yeah, he's got
Maybe you might not be
53
able
and
to.
48. That's pretty damn good. Um, right-handed, a centerman, 26. It makes you younger compared to when you have JT Miller. The only thing is you have to know that Natchez wants to come over.
Mhm.
You have to know that he is willing to re-sign long term with you.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot of that. Like I would if you can if you as the GM of the Canucks can talk to Natchez and be like, "Do you even fucking want to come to Canada? Do you want to come to Vancouver? Like, do you care?"
Mhm.
Uh, if he's excited about it, if he wants to, and he's open to the idea of extending their long term, I probably take this. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, where we are having very serious negotiation talks about this now. Like, I definitely think that's a more appropriate ballpark. Like, you don't want to trade JT Miller or Pedersen, but you kind of have to at this point.
Yeah.
You never want to trade one of your elite players, but in
Yeah.
this case, you are like Hartley's good. I don't think he's elite. Marty Natchez is an elite player, and so getting one of those
And that
back
fills the
is
void of it
huge.
at the center position too. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll slot right into that spot, and you know what? You could put him on a power play with Pedersen, and I bet neither will have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Like,
And if you're the Canucks, you get that first round pick. You don't have to use that first round pick. Like if you want, you could flip it and kind of similar to like the first round pick they got from the Islanders for Bo Horvat. Like a week later, they flipped it to Detroit and they got Philip Roenick for it.
yeah,
Like so you're getting an HS and then you get a first round pick. If you want to use it, great. If you want to flip it to go grab something else, you're more than welcome to.
yeah,
That's your pick, your choice. It's top 10 protected though, just in case. But
just in case.
so
But
you would accept that deal.
I if you talk to Natchez and he is enthusiastic, not just willing, but like actively seems like he does want to be a Canuck and is very open to the idea of it long term. I think I probably do it. Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
I would definitely talk to the Hurricanes a little bit about can you make a Alexander Nikishin trade happen? Or could he be involved somehow? You take out the first, you add him, and maybe the Canucks throw something else in on top of Miller. But if that doesn't happen, and it probably doesn't, then
Mhm.
I definitely don't mind this trade at all.
Okay. All right.
It's too bad that Natchez didn't get a 1-year extension, because
Yeah.
if you could do a sign and trade, like if it's a first round pick and a Marty Natchez sign and trade for a 7-8 year extension, and then for Miller, like yes to that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
No,
very
I
interesting
hear.
one.
I think that would be a big part of it is knowing if Natchez is going to be a
The last thing you want is this next year. Now I've got to move this guy.
exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. Two teams left. You're leaving the Devils and the Rangers on hold still. Who are you answering next here?
All right, the Rangers won't stop. They won't stop texting me. So let's answer it from New York first.
All right, the New York Rangers. I want JT Miller. No salary retention is whole deal, whole shebang.
Why'd you trade him?
It's a good question. I wasn't in charge at the time. I
I'm
wasn't in
sa-
charge at the time.
I'm sassy, Elvine. None of the
I
GMs
also
like taking my
really
calls.
wanted Martin St. Louis. So can you
Oh
blame
yeah.
me? You can't blame me. I'm willing to give you a 2025 first round pick, top 10 protected, just in case.
Oh, you're
Uh,
moving your first this year. Good for you.
apparently, apparently that's what we're doing.
He's done some
Um,
growing up.
Filipino, he's back in the equation. Brennan Othman, he's a left winger, 2021 first round pick, and Braden Schneider, right-handed defenseman. He was a 2020 first round pick.
So the top 10 protected first, Filipino, uh, Braden
Brennan
Schneider.
Othman and Braden Schneider. Brennan
Offman is
Othman, he is a Canadian, so that's kind of nice. Last year in the AHL, he had 49 points in 67 games. 22 years old this year, he has 9 points in 14 games in the
doing
AHL this year.
doing good in the AHL. That's fun.
And Braden
Uh,
Schneider, he is another Canadian as well, which is kind of nice for Vancouver. Big defenseman, right-handed. Last year with the Rangers, more of a defensive defenseman.
yeah,
19 points in 82 games. This year, 12 points in 47 games.
he's on the
So
right. He is right-handed, so
looking like
plays on the
if
right
he
side.
reaches his peak, probably a good second pair right-handed defenseman
Yeah,
that plays good defensive minutes more than anything.
yeah,
He's not out there to rack up the points, and you don't need that when you've got Quinn Hughes and Hronik as your top pair.
yeah.
That can be your offensive pair and can be your shutdown pair, but you get a little bit more stability on that second pair.
It's it's like all right. I
It's
definitely
it's a lot
expected.
of young pieces hoping that it pans out with this one.
Yeah, I I still think no. This seems like definitely like the least attractive to me. It's a
And that's
lot
kind of
of
what's going to
guys
be with the Rangers. I think they have the least amount to kind of offer
you
as
want,
opposed to all these other
you know,
teams.
like I said between Harley and Natchez, like, you when you're trading an elite player, you want to try and get at least one elite player back, even if it's not necessarily the same level of it. Like
Hmm.
you want that
Or
one
or
big
someone
player
that
that
you're
will be
confident
very
can
good.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. It would suck to trade a guy the caliber of JT Miller and just Philip Heedle's just not as good as we thought, which is seemed very
Or just can't
realistic.
stay healthy.
Braden Schneider, he's good for the 30 games a year you get him, but he blocks shots like a madman, and that makes him miss 50 games every year.
No,
Like,
Braden Schneider got called up in the 2021-22 season, played 43 games, so played like the second half of the season, played basically all the games. Following year he played 81. Last
hmm?
year he played 82. This year he's played 47. So
Oh well, so he's
he's a
doing it
big
so
right
far.
hand defenseman who is you're probably good for about 20 points on the season, and you most likely get him for at least 80 games. Might miss
Oh,
one
that's
one
good.
here or there, but that's
Yeah,
why I kind of
it's
like that they put him in over a Ryan Lindgren. Also helps that he's right-handed, which I think Canucks need a bit more younger, and
yeah. It's
you
not
should be getting him for more games than you'd be getting Lindgren for.
yeah. It's not terrible, but it's not enough for me. Nah.
All right, you were saying no to that one, which I kind of thought you would. The more I looked, I'm like, yeah, like
Yeah.
Rangers just don't have the pieces all these other teams have.
Maybe if it was instead of Heedle, if it was Cooley, like I don't think that
Eh,
gets it there, but I think that makes it a lot more
you think that
interesting
makes it more okay? But you know what? Yeah,
because
fair
he's
enough.
obviously had a pretty damn good season. I didn't realize he was so young. He's 22 years old. He's an RFA after this year. Like that, you know,
Yeah,
because he's having a bit of a breakout year, that makes it
put him on a line with Kiefer Sherwood. Ooh, ooh.
oh, that could be
Yeah,
fun.
I would actually like that more. I do agree with you there. And then the last one, the one you have been leaving on hold for a while, the New Jersey Devils.
Because I am the most excited about what this they came up with for this one. So
So I'm surprised they did not put Simon Nemec in the deal.
ah,
But I think this one's still pretty interesting. Um, so again, I would like JT Miller, whole contract. You don't have to retain anything. I'm willing to give you this will be a 2026 first round pick because I don't have my I already got Jacob Markstrom. I don't have my first round pick this year, so you get my 2026 first round pick. Top 10 protected because why not, right? Let's have some fun here. Dawson Mercer, Seamus
Okay,
Casey, and Nolan Foote. That is the deal they prepared there. Um,
interesting.
Nolan
Okay,
Foote this year has played pretty much all year in the AHL, 25 points in 31 games. He is 24, bit of a bigger body, 6'3", 200 pounds. You get that 2026 first. You get Dawson
2026
Mercer,
first.
who can fill that center void, which you know the potential's there for him. Unfortunately, just a guy that kind of kept getting pushed down New Jersey's lineup, so you're not really seeing the point totals that you would necessarily like. But the second line center on the Canucks, I think, can easily rack up
Yeah, yeah.
some
I mean,
decent points.
yeah, he's not knocking out Jack Hughes or Nico Heischer in that center role, and it's so
Yeah,
looking at their lineup is so goofy, man. He's playing on the third line with Timo Meyer.
yeah,
Like, not a lot of guys get to do that. Justin Dowling as their center, he should be very happy with where he's at right about now. Getting
actually.
this, getting to center those two. You're on the third line. Aw, Timo Meyer and Dawson Mercer. Okay, all right, let's do this.
Yeah. And then Seamus Casey, guy we talked about in the last episode, 21 years old. He has 4 points in 8 games with the Devils this year. And in the AHL, he has 14 points in 17 games. He is also a right handed defenseman.
Is Seamus Casey, is he an offensive defenseman, or is he just kind of putting up points when he's getting into the lineup? Like, is he a Luke Hughes
I
type?
think I think he is a bit more of an offensive defenseman. Yeah. And he's not the biggest. Like he's listed at 5'9", 165 pounds. So not a very big body.
21 years old, like pretty damn young, like another right-handed scoring defenseman. Like, that's pretty nice.
This one's kind of interesting. Like I saw it and it didn't have Simone Nemec. I'm like, shit, but I'm like, I mean, you do get a first round pick next year, which could be nice. I think New Jersey's still a top contender next year, so you flip that. But Dawson Mercer, who I think sky's the limit still for him, especially if you put him on the second line on the Canucks and give him a Brock Besser or a Connor Garland, Seamus Casey, who I think can be a great offensive defenseman. Nolan Foote, at this point, probably like former first round pick, but probably a bottom six kind of maybe power forward guy.
Yeah.
Can kind of chip in here and there. So this one's kind of maybe a bit more as opposed to the Carolina one, like
This one's
a
a little more
nice
committee.
quantity over
Yeah.
quality
Yeah,
necessarily.
it's like the Rangers one, but it actually has shit that I want. Um,
Fair
if
enough.
I'm honest.
Fair
Like,
enough.
it feels more like they're giving me players and less like it's a low-key cap dump.
Yeah.
Uh Dawson Mercer, 82 games, 82 games, 82 games, 50 games this year. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's ever missed an NHL game,
Hasn't missed a game. So
which
that right
which
there
also
makes
means he's
him
never
way
been.
more attractive than a Filipino.
Yeah, and even
That's what I'm saying. Like the Rangers
like
just don't have the pieces other teams have.
all those being 82 and not even 80 or 81, that also means they've never had to healthy scratch them, to prove a point or anything. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Hasn't
damn
missed a
good.
team meeting, obviously.
Yeah, never slept in.
Yep.
Third line a lot of the time, still 17, 27, and 20 goals. Looks like he's going to hit about that this year with 12 right now.
And the one year where he put up 56 points in 82 games, he spent the majority of that being on the second line and kind of got shoved down to the third line. So like he was on his way to probably a 65, 70 point season before getting bumped down the lineup. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like he's playing with Timo Meyer on the third line, which is awesome, but your ice time is so limited and you're not getting the amount of power play time with
Yeah.
all the guys in front of you. Like,
Obviously, they'd move the lines around if they brought in Miller. But could you imagine this trade goes through and all of a sudden the Devils have a third line of Timo Meyer and JT Miller?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Like
like fuck.
the amount of physicality and scoring you're getting out of that line would be
Does that top line just have crazy chemistry? Why is Nathan Bastian and Paul Cotter on that first line?
with
Jack Hughes.
with Hughes, not even Heischer. I was gonna say if he
No,
was with Heischer, I'm like it
their
makes
second
sense for
line's
kind of maybe a
better.
defensive line, but
Maybe that's just like their most recent one because I guess they have been losing lately, so they've maybe mixed the lines a bit. But like their second line of Nason, Heischer, and Brought, that's that's way better than
that's way better. Yeah,
Paul Cotter and Bastion centered by Hughes. Obviously, Hughes
yeah.
is phenomenal, but you know
You
Nason over
you want a
Cotter, Brad
Meyer
over
or Pratt
Bastion.
playing with him.
Yeah, very interesting.
But
But
what would you say to that one, the New Jersey one?
oh man, like you're not getting that elite guy right now, but like there's a lot of reasons to be excited about Dawson Mercer. He's got 3 years left on his deal, and he's a RFA at the end of that. That's really nice. I don't know how soon Seamus Casey gets into the Canucks lineup, but he looks like he's going to be good. In 3 years, he's an RFA, right-handed. That first rounder, you don't know what it's going to be, but that's a little more stuff too. Like I like this deal. I like this deal. I definitely think it's at least the second best of all of them. I think this is the best one. I think I'd take this one if I got all four.
Over the Carolina one.
I think so. I think I would like a little bit more of a sample size for Seamus Casey to know exactly what he's going to be, but it's trending well. Dawson Mercer looks good. He's under contract for a bit, RFA'd. Like, if I would probably still take the Natchez one if it could be a sign and trade, but since it can't be this year, I think that makes this
Mhm.
one better.
And I think if you're Vancouver,
That's
I
two
think
solid pieces.
yeah, and I think if you're Vancouver, I think you probably kind of similar to what we talked about with Carolina. I think you try to do everything you can, I think, in your power to try and get Simone Nemec.
Yeah,
Like, I think even if it's just like, hey, we'll
Nemec and
give you
Mercer,
JT Miller for
easy.
Nemec and Mercer.
Yep,
Like, if you
I
can find a way to get
I
something
hammer
like
that.
that done, like, but if New Jersey's like, hey, no, we're not giving up on Nemec yet, we're gonna figure it out, we're gonna make it work, then getting a first, again, Dawson Mercer, who I think could be great for them, Casey and Nolan Foote, who again, I don't think New
Take it or
Jersey has a need for Nolan Foote, and I think
take it or leave it.
there's
Yeah,
yeah, it's an intriguing option, I would say at least, and I know Nolan Foote is American, but if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he did. He played in the WHL Kelowna Rockets, yeah. So he's already
interesting.
familiar with the BC area, so
Well, there you go.
yeah. 8
Yeah,
points in 25 NHL games. He's
on
24, so
with the trade that's outlined there already, if they were willing to take out Casey and put in Simone Nemec, I would add this year's first round pick, top 5 protected.
for the Canucks.
Yeah, like if a first round pick, if that's all it takes, adding that in to turn Seamus Casey into a Simone Nemec, like that's nice. I'm
Yeah.
sure Seamus Casey's going to be good, but I know that Simone Nemec is going to be
And
good.
like Seamus
Like,
Casey, like there's a lot of intrigue with him, but again, like if you are the Canucks, like you already do have Quinn Hughes, so if you're kind of looking at getting a right-handed offensive guy versus more of a right-handed two-way guy, you probably are leaning towards going with the two-way guy.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and his ceiling just seems sky high, and Mercer looks like he'd be a great addition. Like, yeah, I if it had to be Miller and a first for those two and Nolan Foote, I'm in
mhm.
on that absolutely as well.
So the deals that I propose, you've got New Jersey at the top, then Carolina, then Dallas, and then
The
Rangers.
Rangers. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, like, again, that's why I'm like, there's so much buzz around mostly Carolina and the Rangers right now. Obviously, Dallas and New Jersey are poking around. Apparently, the Islanders are still
Islanders are still in.
kind of keeping it, not really making an offer, but kind of just keeping an eye on like what the price would be. But I'm like, the Rangers just don't have, like, pretty much for the Rangers, like, I know that other deal is close, but looking at what some other teams have on the table, and I'm like, I just don't see a way in which the Rangers win a bidding war if it gets to that point.
So
Which kind of seems like
many
that's where we're starting to get to.
Yeah, there's so many offers and mock trades and leaked rumors that I've seen from the Rangers. Almost all of them, like this one you said here, is the first one that didn't feel like the Rangers were pretending to be like, "Oh, we're giving you a good player," when really it's a cap dump. Like, if you're adding Zibanejad to the deal or Kreider to the deal, I know it's not because you're like, "We're giving you this good player." It's because you don't want to pay him for the next 7 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's be real. Like that makes it even harder to get Miller now. Like, I don't want him.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I honestly I was surprised how good the Dallas one did even as well.
Well, I did have to tweak the Dallas one at first a little bit because the proposed one, I was like, hey, this is getting a bit too the because I had to ask it to redo it because
Yeah.
the original Dallas one was
Did it have like
um
Heiskanen in there or something?
no, but it was JT Miller for a first round pick this year, Thomas Harley, Maverick Bork, and Logan Stankoven. Or no, sorry, the first one wasn't Stankoven, it was Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care
Dallas
if
probably
Dallas
won't do
can
that.
get JT Miller, they're not moving Wyatt Johnston. So I was like, all right, you got to give me something else. And then
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
I
the
was like,
one
Thomas Harley is interesting, but you do have Hughes, so you don't really like as good as Thomas Harley is a great player. You don't necessarily need him.
yeah. He's a fun fit, like, but he's just not that elite guy.
Yeah, yeah,
So if he's the best part of the deal, you need to be giving me back at like 4 or 5 pretty solid things. So, just wasn't
yeah,
quite enough value there. Wasn't necessarily the wrong pieces in that case.
yeah. It's just you just need maybe a bit more because again, with the other teams you're competing with, like if you're a Dallas, you're probably kind of gonna have to be a similar like the Rangers because I think Carolina and New Jersey, specifically those two, are able to give up the bigger quality pieces. So if you're Dallas or the Rangers, you kind of have to give up a good amount of quantity to
Yeah.
sway the Canucks in your direction.
Yeah.
By being like, we don't have that great piece, but we got a bunch of good pieces. You know, you can add 4 or 5 uh, pieces into your war chest there as opposed to 1 or 2 solid ones type of thing. So
Yeah. But those were pretty good. Honestly, it did a better job than I thought it was going to do.
yeah, I was actually surprised that the deals were not perfect or anything, but they were at least kind of in the ballpark
They were
too.
realistic-ish.
Yeah,
Pretty damn realistic that all of them included a top 10 protected first. That's
yeah,
pretty par
yeah.
for the course nowadays.
So that kind of wraps up everything for this one. I did mention to you we got a little fun thing here, and this is something we're going to come back to and do every couple of weeks, I think. And we're going to track your progress and over the course of the year and kind of see how you do. You're always going to be up against yourself, basically trying to set your new best record.
Oh,
Um,
okay. This is for another thing.
yeah,
That's not for the trades. Okay.
yeah. So what I've done is I have one NHL player that I've chosen at random. I just picked a player that I saw and I'm like, all right, we're going to go with him.
Okay.
You get to ask me a series of questions. They can only be yes or no questions.
Okay.
And basically, you're just going to ask me as many questions as you want until you feel confident you can guess the player. And you only get one guess. So if you guess the player and you're wrong, you're done.
Okay. Okay.
And the
So
goal is
20
you want to try to figure out the player in the least amount of questions as possible. and
Right.
then the next time we do it, that'll be your score to try and beat type of thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And you can ask any question you want. It has to be one I can only respond with
Okay.
yes or no to.
I would assume that it's, it's a known player, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
2 games played bum crusty over in wherever.
yeah, yeah. And it is a current active player. It'll always be a current active player in the league.
Right.
And yeah, it'll be a guy that I'll say for the like I'll always kind of tell you, but like this guy you will know for sure. But
Okay.
if it's a guy that maybe isn't, maybe I'll be like,
I
they
haven't
they
heard you
haven't
talk about him.
yeah, like they maybe haven't played 100 games in the league yet, but they've established themselves
They're an
as a
NHLer.
well-known name. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And again,
All
there's
right.
no you can ask as many questions as you like, but you do want to try and do it in the least amount as possible.
Okay. So obviously I'm sitting at my computer while we're doing this. Do you care on me? Do we want to set up some rules on using the internet? Obviously,
Nope.
if I figure out their team, I probably shouldn't be like looking directly at their lines, but uh, you know, maybe I'll at least bring up, the standings or so I can see the divisions and stuff like that.
Yeah, so basically I've just got the player. So like I know their um
Their team, their stats,
yeah,
their
basically like
position.
basically the only thing is I'm not going to be like, oh, they play on like this line, right? Like the best you could get is trying to figure out what handed they are, what position they are, basically. And then if you want to go even further to ask more questions, you could ask like, you know, have they ever had a 50-point season or something to try and narrow it down
Yeah.
more type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm into it.
And with the lines, you would just be racking up questions because you could be like first line, I'd be like, no, second line, no, third line, no. And they're like, okay, well, fourth line, but use 3 questions right there to narrow it down.
Yeah. All right. I am ready.
All right.
All right. First question, right out the gate. Do they play in the Eastern Conference?
They do not play in the Eastern Conference. No.
They're in the West. Do they play on a Pacific Division team?
No.
So they're in the Central. All right. This is an interesting one. Do they play on a team whose name ends with an S? So the Jets, the Stars, the Predators, the Blues, or the Blackhawks?
Yes.
Okay, so that eliminates the Wild, Avalanche, Utah. That's 3 questions. How can I eliminate some of the teams? Does the
There's a couple ways you could.
right? Does the team they play for have 6 or more letters in their name? So the Predators or the Blackhawks?
The team they're playing for has more than 6?
Yeah.
No.
So they're on the Blues, Stars, or Jets. I think I've gotten no on all of them so far, but we're
Actually
getting
you
there.
have, yes. Yeah.
So the Jets, Stars, or Blues. Do they? Oh man, I just feel like narrowing it down to the team is pretty damn important. But I could also just start asking, like if I have those 3 teams, I could just start asking about their stats or their position and try and get it looking at those 3.
Yeah. There's a lot of strategy involved in this, especially when you're trying to do it in the least amount as possible.
Yeah. Let's go with, are they a forward? I guess it needs to be a yes or no question. Do they play forward?
No.
No.
You might get this player just by me saying no to every question. You're on a bit of it's 5 questions, no to all of them.
So it's a non-forward. I'm assuming that means it's a defenseman. Could obviously be a goalie. So it is a non-forward on the Jets, Stars, or Blues.
You are on the right track so far, yes. For 5
I wa-
questions, you've got it. Yeah, you're doing good so far.
I would love to just like randomly guess a defenseman from one of those teams and get it, but
Now you only
is
get 1 guess for the player.
oh, that is true. I only get one guess for the player. I can't
Yeah.
that doesn't just increase the question. Okay, you're right. Does this player have more than, let's say, 100 career points?
More than 100? Yes.
More than 100 points. And you didn't even have to look that up. You said that pretty good. I mean, you do have the stats in front of you, but
I do have it here, but I wouldn't have even had to look to know that, yeah, they do have more than
so they
100
either
career points.
score or they've been around for at least a few seasons. Obviously not a goaltender as well. We do know it's a defenseman now. Unless there's
Yeah,
some
actually, that
goalie
that was
that's
a good way.
lighting
Yeah,
it up.
that was actually a good way to do it. You know a little bit more about the player, and you were able to eliminate it being a goalie.
I've got
That was
I've
well
got
done.
I've got one guy in mind that for some reason he's just like sticking out to me. Is this player 32 years old or older? 32 or older.
No,
Okay. So they are 31 or younger.
you would be correct there. Yeah,
What am I at? Seven or eight questions?
7 questions so far. You're at 7 so far. You know it's a defenseman on one of the 3 teams.
I think I might have to narrow down the team from here. Are they on the St. Louis Blues?
No, they are not on the Blues.
Are they on the Dallas Stars?
No,
All right. I'm going to assume that means they're on the Jets. All right. A Jets defenseman that is 31 or younger who has more than 100 career points. Who could that be? They got well, even Josh Morrissey's under. He's got to be 31 or younger. He's probably not even 30. Uh fuck. Do they have any defensemen that are that old? Like honestly.
relatively younger defensive core. Yeah, for Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does this player make more than $4 million per season?
Just gonna double check, but I believe so. Make more than 4? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
4
they do.
plus mil per season.
You're at 10 questions so far.
10 questions. I'm down
You've probably
to
got it narrowed down to
like two, like a handful of guys
yeah.
cuz I know it's not like a Logan Stanley or anything like that. Like there's no way he's making that much. I'm
I
thinking
also
I'm
don't
thinking
believe
it Josh.
he's even sniffing 100 points in his career.
I wasn't sure how many years he played if he just kind of had enough bounce off of him, but I'm thinking either Josh Morrissey or Neil Pionk. I feel like Morrissey might be a little too obvious to go for the first one in these, but maybe that's kind of the point. Trying to think
You're at
what
10 questions so far, so you can either ask another one narrow it down, or you can try and shoot your shot on it.
Does this player play left defense?
They do not. No.
So they are a right D. So Morrissey's left. So I feel like I'm missing somebody thinking about their decor. Like I feel like there's Neil Pionk. I feel like there's one other guy. There's one other guy that could still fit in there.
Uh,
I don't know which side Dylan DeMello plays on. I feel like it's probably one of those two. What differentiates them? What do they do? What do they do?
what do they do? That is a good question. It's not a yes or no question though, so I can't count that one. No.
No, no, of course.
Definitely can't count that one.
Um, I think Pionk's younger, so I think I just have to go age again. Is this player 30 or younger?
Yes.
Okay. So I think if I've done this correctly, I think my guess is Neil Pionk.
Final answer?
Yes.
You are correct. It is Neil Pionk
He
of the
got
Winnipeg
there.
Jets. Well done.
Okay.
So you did that one in 12.
And
Which, you know
12.
what? I think that's pretty
I thought it would
respect.
be
And you could have easily gotten that down. It's you just guessed St. Louis, and it wasn't. And then you guessed Dallas, and it wasn't.
yeah. So the Dallas one basically comes out in the wash. That's basically confirmed it, but if I got it on the first out of those 3, it could have been
Yeah,
one less.
yeah,
I picked if I had said 30 or younger instead of 32, then I could have eliminated DeMello sooner.
yeah, yeah. When I saw that one, I was like, oh. Or if you did making more than 5 mil, you could have also eliminated Dumelo.
Oh, is DeMello not making 5?
He's
He's
making
got
4.9,
oh
and then Pionk is 5.8,
okay.
I believe, somewhere in there.
I'm thinking
Definitely
I'm
over 5.
I'm thinking for the future doing that. I think I will allow myself to look at the standings just to see teams, and I think bringing up bringing up cap friendly might be good to see like it has like age, position, and cap hit on there,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't bring up like the line combinations.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
because I
guess for
don't have
that,
the
I would
line
try and think about
combinations
that.
up in front of me. I just have their, yeah.
That's really good though. I like that. So when you get picked Pionk, did you just pick a random player or did you like how did you how'd you do that?
Um, I mean, yeah, like it's just picking a random player. I literally was just kind of like, before we started recording, I was just kind of looking over news and highlights, and I saw Pionk ripped a bullet for an overtime winner last night. So I was like, fuck it, why not?
Okay.
Yeah, there really isn't much thought that goes into it. It's just kind of picking a player, but also someone that like you will actually be able to guess, and it's not like
Yeah.
yeah, just a bum that's come up for a couple of games. I say bum, but like they're obviously still playing in the NHL, but um, a player that you
Comparatively, yeah.
would be able to get, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
or it wouldn't take you 20 plus questions to narrow it down to a fourth line winger on the Chicago Blackhawks or something like that.
Yeah, no offense, but if you said Tyrell Bauer, I wouldn't have got that.
What team is he even on?
He is in the AHL for the Jets on
Oh,
defense.
yeah, there we go.
I'm just on their cap friendly looking at it.
Yeah, definitely would not go in that direction.
I like
But
that.
so your score for Neil Pionk is 12. So next time we do this with whoever the next player is, you're scored to beat. Well, you got to try to beat 12,
Got to try and beat 12. I love it.
and we'll see how low we can get it by the end of the year. But I think that does wrap up everything for this episode.
I do
Um,
believe so.
Hope you guys all enjoyed. And if you guys have any JT Miller mock trades, if you have your thoughts on the different mock trades that were presented by ChatGPT, these weren't created by me. Wish I had the brain to put together these interesting offers. But feel free to let us know your thoughts on the mock trades. You can do so by letting us know down on our socials. They're down in the description for every episode across all platforms. Come talk hockey. Come say hi. Braden, it is that time. Give us your final thoughts.
Every team in the Metro division is currently on a winning streak. Every single one
Really?
has won at the very
Wow.
least their last game. Uh
No, there we go. Metro's heating up.
it was just $1, but the other day I put $1 on the Capitals to win the President's Trophy.
Hey, go Caps.
This team cannot be stopped. I don't know why.
Logan
I don't
Thompson can't be
but
stopped. I can't believe he's not on Canada's
well,
formations.
actually
The
we can
boys
stop him
combined.
if we throw nacho cheese on the ice. If you saw that.
Oh, you know what I did? Yes, I
The
did.
one goal went in and he was after the game he's like somebody threw nachos on the ice. I was distracted by the cheese.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, that was funny.
He had a good run, but the cat's out of the bag. We know how to beat him now.
Yeah. But that will wrap up everything for this episode. Once again, hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to talk hockey again, down in the description, come over to any of our socials and say hi. And as always, once again, we will see you guys out on the ice on Tuesday next week.